Today is April the 14th, Friday. I'm talking with Sheriff Bodie Hillhouse in Athens, Texas. Thank you, Sheriff, for talking with me. I sure appreciate it. I'm sitting in the office of Bodie Hillhouse, the current sheriff of Henderson County, the same county where Shelley Watkins' murder has remained unsolved for 30 years. So this case is technically still active.
Yes.
Can you talk at all about any of the lines you all are following up? Sheriff Hillhouse is about to tell me some news I can hardly believe. Remember, when Shelley was found in the Trinity River, she was wrapped up like a package in black plastic and bound in duct tape. The sheriff's office saved all that material, the plastic sheets, the tape, her clothing, the ropes, everything. What if there was a clue hidden among the evidence, something that might have been overlooked or impossible to find when Shelley died in 1993?
We gathered up all the evidence, took it to California to a DNA lab to try to find some touch DNA.
That would be inside the package she was wrapped in?
It was all the evidence that we took.
Everything.
We basically gathered up everything we had and just took it to California and said, hey, can y'all go through this and see if you can find any touch DNA or any type of DNA that wasn't available at that time.
Sure.
Technology's changed dramatically. We found out we had a possible profile.
A possible profile. In other words, Sheriff Hillhouse has found the DNA of someone who apparently disposed of Shelley's body in the Trinity River. But whose DNA? My name is Carol Dawson.
And I'm Wes Ferguson. You're listening to The Unforgotten, Season 1, The Labor Day Ghost.
Chapter 8, The Breakthrough. Bodie Hillhouse looks like an archetypal Texan sheriff. His strong jaw and trim beard match the steady, pragmatic gaze of his brown eyes under their dark seagull wing eyebrows. He has a stocky build that can probably heft 50-pound sacks of horse feed or 50-pound bales of confiscated marijuana with equal ease.
When Sheriff Hillhouse took office in 2017, he made Shelley's cold case a top priority. He assigned an experienced homicide investigator to the case.
And then he started digging in and running a lot of warrants and trying to gather different information.
Mm-hmm.
The most promising information was that DNA found among the materials with Shelley's body.
And they were able to get a profile, male profile.
Oh.
And then of course, it's been entered into CODIS.
Yeah.
No hits on it.
CODIS is the national DNA database managed by the FBI.
Then we went back and got another search warrant, went down, got Jerry Mac's DNA, and it did not match.
It did not
It did not
match.
match the profile.
So it might not be him?
Well, that I don't know.
Okay, this is interesting. A crime lab in California found male DNA on the evidence from when Shelley was recovered. But the DNA does not belong to Jerry Mack, nor does it match anyone in his family. Unfortunately, the lead investigator who was digging into Shelley's case quit when he got a higher-paying job in the Dallas area. Sheriff Hillhouse assigned another investigator to the case. That investigator also left the department for a job in the Dallas area. So Sheriff Hillhouse has looked for help outside the department. Someone who knows how to make the most out of a little DNA.
What we're trying to really focus on right now is working with the genealogist to see if the genealogist can help us with the profile, build a family tree, and point us in the direction where we need to go.
Hillhouse is talking about forensic genealogy, a relatively new tool of law enforcement that combines genetic analysis with old-fashioned genealogical research. If you can find relatives who share the same DNA, you might be able to work your way down a family tree to solve a cold case or identify previously unknown remains. One of the best-known success stories of forensic genealogy was the arrest and conviction of the Golden State Killer in 2018. Carol asks Sheriff Hillhouse for the name of the genetic genealogist he's been in touch with. In the moment, Hillhouse can't remember.
This lady has assisted in solving some very
High profile.
profile cases. She's out of Denton. Actually has ties to Navarre County. Her family's from Navarre County. She's very interested in this case.
It sounds like he's talking about Cheryl Hester, who lives in Denton County, Texas, north of Dallas, and has been described as one of the nation's leading experts in solving crimes through genealogy. Hillhouse also tried to interest the FBI in the DNA from Shelley's case.
But they did not choose to take this one for whatever reason, so I'm going to continue to work with her and try to get some profiles and see if she can tell me where I need to go with the investigation.
Interesting. So that DNA does not tie Jerry Mack directly.
I mean, well, that's what we were hoping for. I mean, he had help. He had help.
Again, Jerry Mack Watkins has never been convicted of a crime. He is innocent until proven guilty. Sheriff Hillhouse said his investigators also questioned Jerry Mack's close friend, Louis Palis. Remember, Louis is the former Corsicana police officer whose controversial actions delayed the search for Shelley in 1993.
It was fairly easy to write a search warrant for Jerry Mack's DNA. I gotta have enough to write the search warrant for Palis, so that's why I'm kind of hoping the genealogist can.
Oh, that's the family tree business.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I've got an unknown profile.
Yeah.
I need to establish that family tree.
The discovery of this unknown man's DNA seems like the biggest break in Shelley's case in 3 decades. But we've been digging into this exciting new development, and it turns out to not be so new after all. The sheriff's office took Jerry Mack's DNA sample in 2019. That was 5 years ago. We reached out to the genetic genealogist that Sheriff Hillhouse seemed to be talking about, her name's Cheryl Hester, to ask if she's had any luck tracing the family tree of this man using his DNA. But the spokesman for Hester's company, Advanced DNA, says she's never worked on Shelley's case. And what about those 2 former sheriff's investigators who were assigned to reopen Shelley's cold case? We accidentally woke up one of them. I was wondering if you had a moment to speak about it.
I'm sleeping because I got off work at 9 this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I got to go back. But
I want you to get your sleep. Is there a better time? He told us to call him back that afternoon. He's never picked up our calls again. When we found the other investigator, he also told us to call him right back. When we did, he informed us that he'd just checked in with Sheriff Hillhouse, and the sheriff instructed his former investigator not to cooperate with us. Getting stonewalled by law enforcement is always disappointing, and unfortunately, it's nothing new for journalists who are trying to keep the public informed. But this one is strange because Sheriff Hillhouse was so candid when Carol interviewed him the first time. It's been over a year since that first interview in Sheriff Hillhouse's office. He has never responded to another call or email. And we're talking about a lot of calls and a lot of emails. I'm a journalist calling for Sheriff Hillhouse. Is Sheriff Hillhouse in yet? I was wondering if Sheriff Hillhouse was in. Bust. Every time. Okay. Could I leave another message for him? We also dropped by his office a few times. We were always turned away. How are we supposed to interpret this? I guess it could mean that Sheriff Hillhouse is close to breaking the case, and he doesn't want members of the public jeopardizing his investigation. Or he could have found out that the DNA belongs not to a potential suspect, but to someone who simply handled Shelley's body when she was being pulled from the river or when her autopsy was being conducted. Or maybe the sheriff doesn't want to admit that another year has gone by with nothing to show for his efforts. We have no way of knowing. Whatever the reason, retired FBI agent Jeff Millslagle didn't seem too surprised when we told him about our problems trying to get answers to these questions.
You and I know who did it. How do you prove it?
Well, it would be good if the new evidence that has been retrieved by the Henderson County Sheriff's Department proves fruitful.
I don't have faith in that department to put a murder case together. There's not enough people over there working it. How are they going to put together a murder case 30 years old?
Well, Sheriff Hillhouse, you know how to reach us. We'd still love to talk. In the meantime, this unknown DNA raises new questions. Since Sheriff Hillhouse obviously still considers Jerry Mack to be his prime suspect, who could have helped to hide a crime like that?
This is important, so let's take a quick moment to ask, who are the people in Jerry Mack Watkins' orbit who know better than anyone whether he is guilty or innocent? And how does Jerry Mack keep these people close? Their stories paint a picture of a man who knows how to get exactly what he wants. First up is Kay Watkins. Ask anybody about Kay, and you almost always get the same response. She's so sweet. Back in 1993, Kay was married to Jerry Mack's college roommate, Dennis. Kay and Dennis lived just down the street from Jerry Mack and Shelley, in the same neighborhood, Beaton Lake Estates. The young couple spent a lot of time together. We've been told by several people that Jerry Mack and Kay were especially close. When Shelley died, Kay told investigators she spoke with Jerry Mack at 6:45 a.m., less than 7 hours after Shelley supposedly vanished. According to the search affidavit we have, Jerry Mack gave Kay lots of details about his fight with Shelley, how she'd threatened to leave and take the girls, so he took her keys and went back inside the house and fell asleep. Later, Kay helped with Jerry Mack's criminal defense. When the grand jury was deciding whether or not to indict him, Kay was one of a parade of witnesses who testified. In Texas, grand jury proceedings are supposed to be kept secret. Apparently, prosecutors in Henderson County didn't realize that because they allowed Chief Investigator Larry Warwick and Texas Ranger Ray Nutt into the room. The pair of investigators watched and listened to the testimony and even wrote down questions for prosecutors to ask. We're told that Jerry Mack's criminal attorney, Jack Zimmerman, was also allowed to observe the grand jury testimony, which is just as irregular. Hoping to quash Jerry Mack's indictment, Zimmerman complained that 3 of the witnesses had felt intimidated and nervous by the presence of the investigators. Those witnesses were Jerry Mack's brother, Ronnie, his sister, Janice, and his friend, Kay. Remember, Kay was a former neighbor of the Watkins. We've spoken with multiple people who spent time with Jerry Mack and Kay in the early 90s and suspected them of having an affair while Shelley was still alive. Shelley's brother, Rob, also says that he visited his sister's home in Corsicana during the year before her death, when he stumbled onto Jerry Mack and Kay locked in a romantic embrace, a shocking scene he quickly disclosed to both his sister and his future wife. He also told his traveling companion that his brother-in-law was cheating on his sister, although the companion could not recall names or that specific incident. Less than 3 months after the indictment was dropped, Kay filed for divorce from Jerry Mack's old college roommate, Dennis. Jerry Mack and Kay were married soon thereafter, in Hawaii. We have been told by numerous friends and witnesses how badly Kay had always wanted children of her own. She became the stepmother of Shelley's 2 daughters and proceeded to legally adopt them. Shelley's daughters call Kay Mom. There's another benefit. As Jerry Mack's wife, Kay cannot be compelled to ever testify against him or be deposed in a lawsuit against him about matters that have occurred after their marriage began. Since Jerry Mack and Kay were not married when Shelley died, Kay would not be granted spousal immunity if he ever faces new charges in Shelley's death.
So that's Kay. This is Carolyn. Carolyn Taylor was the poker queen who lived across the street from Jerry Mack and Shelley. Remember, she and another neighbor told investigators the lights were on at the Watkins house till at least 4 a.m, the night Shelley disappeared. Carolyn's testimony helped get Jerry Mack indicted. Carolyn and Shelley were good friends. People tell us that Shelley often walked across the street to confide in her neighbor when she and Jerry Mack would have a fight. Numerous people, including her own family members, tell us that Carolyn hated Jerry Mack with a passion. Carolyn ran her gambling establishment for years. Local law enforcement had always turned a blind eye. Even District Attorney E. Ray Andrews placed bets with Carolyn.
Yeah, I knew Carolyn. I bet the football game for her.
About 1 year after Jerry Mack's indictment was dropped, the sheriff's department raided Carolyn's home and party room. Carolyn, her cook, and all her customers were arrested and booked into jail. Navarre County had a relatively new sheriff, Les Cotton. Sheriff Cotton is said to have been allied with Jerry Mack's dad, Carmack Watkins.
The Watkins were major players in Navarre County, and Carmack was a big law enforcement supporter in Navarre County.
This is former Corsicana Police Chief G.M. Cox.
I almost guarantee you he was a major contributor to Les Cotton's campaign.
Game Warden Rick Thomas also told us about Carmack Watkins' influence among Corsicana law enforcement.
Father-in-law is known as the Godfather. You know, he was always nice to me, but you don't see the other side. And he definitely had another side from what I understood.
Carolyn had always had a clean criminal record until her gambling room got raided. She was sentenced to 3 days in jail and fined $2,000.
When Carolyn showed up at the Navarre County Jail for her 3-day incarceration, she brought with her a set of hair rollers, a pair of silk pajamas, toiletries, makeup, and other luxuries, ready to spend her cell days in comfort. Of course, these were immediately confiscated, and she was handed an inmate uniform instead. After 3 days, Carolyn was released to return home, the home where she'd made a living from gamblers. Now her party room was closed, her gaming business over. Carolyn needed a job.
She found one at Watkins Construction.
I know after Carolyn got busted, she couldn't have no poker games for 10 years, that she was getting a paycheck from Carmack Watkins.
This is a first-hand witness. It's annoying, but we've altered her voice at the witness's request. It's practically the only way to get people in Corsicana to talk about Jerry Mack.
I had to go to his office, and she was there working for him, doing nothing, just sitting there.
How did you know she was giving you a paycheck?
Because he told me. Because I asked him, I said, is Carolyn working for you now? Yeah, she's working for me.
Jerry Mack's dad, Carmack, also gave Carolyn a number of cash advances and real estate loans over the years. County records show that she didn't always pay him back, but he kept the money coming. Was he a generous man helping a friend out of a jam? A savvy businessman hoping to recoup a bigger payday down the road? We have no way of knowing. We do know that Carolyn ended up growing very close to Jerry Mack and Kay. When her health began to fail her, she worked nights for Watkins Construction, using a GPS device to track the movements of company trucks. She performed this job across the street from the house where Jerry Mack and Shelley had once lived. When Carolyn moved into a nursing home, Jerry Mack and Kay were her frequent visitors. And when she died, Jerry Mack, a man she once hated, was named one of her pallbearers. So that's Carolyn. Next on deck is Louis Palos.
We met Louis Palos way back in Chapter 3.
I haven't talked about that case to anybody because it's still under investigation.
Louis is the former Corsicana police officer who's been like a brother to Jerry Mack since childhood, even though Louis is about 6 years Jerry Mack's senior. For many years, Louis lived on Watkins family land outside of Corsicana, in the rural community where they grew up. Louis was always welcome at the Jerry Mack Watkins house for a swim or a meal, even if no one was home, and he kept horses on Jerry Mack's 40-acre property. We spoke to one man who says he walked in on them wrestling together one time. Nothing sexual, he says, but it demonstrates their easy familiarity. Jerry Mack and Shelley's daughters call him Uncle Louis. They grew up with him always around. Louis has said he was the first person Jerry Mack alerted when Shelley went missing. Louis quietly filed Shelley's missing person report without notifying his chief or his fellow officers, bypassing protocol. He also kept the case to himself, even though it was not in the police department's jurisdiction. When I interviewed Sheriff Hillhouse, He said his investigators had been in touch with Lewis.
We have visited him and interviewed him again. And I mean, the investigators came back with an odd feeling, he was highly nervous. You could just sense that something wasn't right.
Well, he is a deacon in the
Yes.
Catholic Church. He hoped Lewis's high-ranking affiliation with the church would trip his conscience if Lewis had anything to share.
It was hopeful with what he's doing currently. We tried to use that avenue if he would just come out with it, but it didn't work at the time.
Have you gotten Lewis Paylos's DNA?
We have not gotten it yet. Eventually.
When Wes knocked on Lewis's door, he asked Lewis directly if he'd provided any of his DNA to law enforcement.
I don't want to say anything.
Lewis was questioned and cleared by law enforcement in 1993. He has never been charged with any crime. His close association with the Watkins family has been rewarding for him. In fact, the year after Jerry Mack's indictment was dismissed, Lewis founded a new business called Paylos Enterprises Incorporated. His articles of incorporation list a surprisingly wide array of ventures: transportation services, construction, real estate ownership, sales and development, and consulting services. That's a lot of work for a full-time cop who would not retire from the force for another 13 years or so. The same day he founded Paylos Enterprises, Paylos Courier Services was also incorporated. Its founding documents show the officers were Jerry Mack, Jerry Mack's civil attorney Glenn Sodd, and Lewis himself. A person with direct knowledge told us that Jerry Mack established these two companies in Lewis's name to qualify for tax benefits and other perks set aside for minority-owned businesses. Whatever management Lewis Paylos did or did not contribute to these two enterprises, his ethnicity alone was a big plus. Lewis's two businesses were located on 2 acres owned by the Watkins family on the same property as Watkins Construction, just across the interstate from the home Shelley and Jerry Mack had shared. Here's one more wrinkle. About a year and a half after Lewis founded his enterprise on the 2-acre property owned by the Watkins family, Jerry Mack sold the same 2 acres for a surprisingly tidy $100,000 sum. The buyer was a trust fund named for Jerry Mack and Shelley's daughters. As best we can tell, this is the same trust Jerry Mack was forced to establish when he settled the wrongful death lawsuit with his former in-laws. In Chapter 7, you might remember when Shelley's sister Sandy explained why the trust was so important to her.
And I did set up a trust fund for the girls in case down the road they ever wanted to get the hell out.
If this is the same trust, and we believe it is, it shows how Jerry was able to extract the money he was legally bound to set aside for his own little girls.
I'm recording. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. What's going on?
So we've been digging into anything we could find about the trusts for the girls, deeds and transaction records in the county clerk's office. I know you said you didn't want Ronnie, but did you ever hear who the trustee actually was?
I don't believe I did.
So the trustees of the 1997 trust for the 2 daughters, these 3 guys, Johnny Ross, Gary Schlimmer, and Lynn Shelton,
Oh, my God.
were all 3 top employees of Watkins Construction.
You are kidding me. I definitely did not know that.
Yeah, assuming this is the same trust.
It has to be. So I shot myself in the foot on that one, I guess.
Right.
Wow.
And after this trust was established in 97, and Jerry installed his 3 lieutenants as the trustees, he then sold 2 acres of his own construction company yard to the trust for $100,000.
Oh, my.
So it seems like a way, like he was forced to pay this money, and this is a way for him to get that money back. To this day, that 2-acre tract, which is really, if you look at Google Maps, it's like A parked truck, some storage, not much to it, still valued at $100,000.
Wow.
So, like, over the past quarter century, it has not accrued any value.
Wow. So it's just sitting there.
Yeah, it looks like there's a small building. It might be a storage building or something. Like, if you're driving past, no one would know that it's not owned by Watkins Construction.
Okay.
But technically, it is owned by the Girls Trust. It just seems like your idea to have this money that is for the girls that they could use if they want to get away.
Absolutely. That's was the whole basis of it.
It sounds like that has not worked at all.
And that's just legal to do that?
Well, that's a question for someone else, but it certainly doesn't really seem to follow the spirit of your settlement, as far as I understand it.
I shouldn't say I'm surprised, given everything else that's come about, but there's not any part of this whole thing since the day she was killed that has even been slightly legitimate. Every single thing has been a bad turn here, a bad turn there, all this power, and I'm just baffled by it. But obviously, you can certainly tell why I wasn't really able to play their game, because I'm nowhere near that. And, it would have been nice if the girls would have known that their Aunt Sandy was looking out for them. Whether they wanted to believe anything that went with it, they knew I was doing my best for what I thought was right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody doubts that you had the best of intentions and trying to make the best of a horrible, impossible situation.
Right. Right.
The 3 overseers of his daughter's trust were all top employees of Watkins Construction. They included the operations manager, Lynn Shelton, one of Jerry Mack's closest friends since high school, Johnny Ross, who later succeeded Shelton in management, and another loyal friend of Jerry Mack's named Gary Schlimmer. Much like Louis Pelos, Gary Schlimmer was one of the prime people Henderson County investigators wanted to question regarding Shelley's murder. Also a lifelong bachelor like Louis, he's been on the Watkins payroll since his early 20s. At age 73 and no longer working at a job, he remains on the company payroll. These days, everybody in town knows where to find Gary.
So I already knocked on Louis Pelos's door, and he didn't really tell me anything. What about Jerry Mack's other close friend, Gary Schlimmer? Carol has known of Gary since childhood, but I first saw his name on a list of state's witnesses in the file for Jerry Mack's criminal case back in 1993. Carol and I have tried hard to contact every witness on that list. Gary was one who never responded. Word on the street was I could find Gary at Napoli's, an Italian restaurant in downtown Corsicana. I was told to look for a short man with gray hair. He'd be dressed sharply in khaki pants, sitting every afternoon at the end of the bar inside the restaurant. Supposedly, after he's had a few, he opens up about some of his theories of Shelley Watkins' death. I show up a little after 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. The bar is in its own room, separate from the restaurant. It's dark, but I look around, and I see those telltale khakis. There are other guys sitting on either side of this gentleman, so I take my own seat at the bar, just a few stools down.
Want a beer?
What kind of beer?
I order a cold one. The bartender's friendly. I guess she can tell I'm not a local because she asks what brings me to Corsicana.
I'm a writer. I'm here doing a story.
Okay. What are you writing a story about?
It's about an unsolved murder.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. The Watkins murder?
Yeah.
Oh. I just recently learned about that.
The bartender starts telling me what she's heard about Shelley's case. Her details are pretty off. For one thing, she mentions alligators in the river. You can't hear it on the tape, but all of a sudden, a guy at the other end of the bar, not where the older gentleman is sitting to my left, but the opposite side to my right, butts in. He goes, "You don't need to be talking about that." The bartender brushes off his warning.
Baby, those are barroom stories that are completely untrue.
Watch out.
Watch out, he says. By now, I've already figured out the guy sitting to my left isn't Gary.
I actually came in here looking for a guy in khakis, but not you. I was looking for Gary Schlimmer. Oh my God.
Everyone starts laughing. They tell me Gary is usually holed up at another bar in town, out at the golf course, called the Moon Tower at the Oaks. Before I leave Napoli's, the guy who's not Gary tells me that he's very blessed to know Jerry Mack and that I should leave the past in the past. Instead, I head over to the Moon Tower. You can tell I'm nervous by how fast I'm talking and how weirdly enthusiastic my voice gets, like I'm trying to psych myself up.
Walking into the Moon Tower at the Oaks on the golf course.
Ugh. The door swings open. There he is, Gary. There's an open seat next to him. I take it.
Hello. I think I would like just a Coors Light draft, please.
I smile and nod to Gary, but he's too busy looking over my shoulder at this big TV on the wall behind me. I glance back at the TV. It's Kelly Clarkson. This is starting off really weird.
How's it going? Doing pretty good.
I was watching what they're saying.
What do you think?
Yeah?
She wins 10,000 on the Kelly Clarkson.
Oh, I understand.
If you couldn't understand that, don't worry. I'm laughing, but I have no idea what he's talking about either. I take a long sip of a very cold beer and consider my options. I either talk to Gary or I throw down a $5 bill and walk out the door. No one has to know.
Hey, are you Gary?
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, I'm Wes Ferguson. I'm a writer.
Oh, you're a what?
Writer?
Writer for what?
Well, I used to be in newspapers and magazines, and now I mostly make documentary podcasts.
And I'm not trying to talk to you, well.
No, sir?
That's what you're trying to talk to me about.
Yeah, I've heard that you have some interesting theories.
I don't know anything about what you're trying to talk about.
Shelley Watkins?
It's none of your business.
What do you mean?
It's none of your business.
That's none of your business, Gary says. I look up. The bartenders have all stopped pouring drinks. They're just standing there, uncomfortably, watching us. The guys on the other side of Gary are all listening in too. This might have been a mistake.
I'm working with the writer from Corsicana named Carol Dawson.
I know who that is.
Yeah, she's writing a book about the case.
Well, a damn thing.
I don't know a damn thing. Gary seems pretty agitated, just from his body language. He's kind of rocking in his chair and fumbling around for his wallet.
Do you know how Shelley ended up in the river?
Sir, I don't have a clue about anything.
Gary pulls out a credit card and waves it at the nearest bartender. One of the other guys sitting at the bar, this big fella in a red t-shirt, comes to Gary's rescue.
What's going on, Gary? How you doing?
He offers to pick up Gary's tab.
Dude, I got you. Don't worry. I got it. Take off. I got you. You be careful there, man. All right, brother. We'll see you later, Gary. Okay,
Gary gets out of there fast. Who can blame him? I'm ready to go too.
I think I'd just like to pay up. All right. Y'all have a good night.
Well, that's probably the last time I go to a bar in Corsicana, Texas. Gary seemed pretty rattled from the moment I introduced myself. He knew why I was there before I ever said the name Shelley Watkins. It's tempting to read into his reaction. What did he not want to say to me? But keep in mind, Jerry Mack is Gary's meal ticket. We've been told by more than one person that Gary still draws a paycheck from Watkins Construction, despite not working there for years. I mean, who would want to jeopardize an arrangement like that? Way more important than talking to Gary, I've also been trying to figure out how to approach Jerry Mack. He lives behind a locked gate. He's rarely seen around town. He didn't respond to a letter I mailed or a voicemail I left. I wasn't sure where to go from here, till Carol and I made contact with someone from the inner circle.
initially, I would have told you that Jerry was just a hardworking, blue collar, kind of good old boy that was caught in a really unfortunate situation. The more that I was around him and the more we bonded and I became part of the family, he let his guard down. That's when I really saw Jerry Watkins for who he is. And I knew that that man was capable of anything. That is what made me start questioning Jerry.
And what do you think now?
The answer, next time on The Unforgotten.
Thank you for listening to The Unforgotten. Get updates, photos, case files, and more when you sign up for our newsletter at unforgottenpod.com. The Unforgotten is a free-range production. Season 1, The Labor Day Ghost, is created, written, and hosted by Carol Dawson and me, Wes Ferguson. I'm the executive producer here at Free Range. Audio recording, editing, and mixing by Austin Sisler at Eastside Studios in Austin, Texas. Scored by Austin Sisler and Jamie Cummins. Our theme song, Ghost, is written and performed by Corsicana's own Will Mechatron Jones. If you support our efforts to shine a new light on Shelley Watkins' cold case, please like, subscribe, give us a review, and tell your friends. Thanks again, and see you soon.